Good morning everyone. Welcome to the webinar series. Myself Dr. Santosh, Assistant Professor, Department of Crop Physiology, being worked in Angro since last 3 years. So I am going to discuss now about the plant nutrition, especially in the plant perspective and also in the farmer's perspective. Okay, so let us now discuss the deficiency symptoms of the crops and also the remediation measures of the deficiencies, and also how the deficiencies will be influencing the plant performance in case of the yield and also performance. So to begin with, so let us discuss, there is the deficiency symptoms of the nutrients are actually very much conceptual, and the deficiency symptoms of the crops in space of the nutrients, they have very much been influenced by the mobility of the nutrients. So as we all know, the deficiency symptoms of the nutrients depends upon the mobility, and the mobility of the nutrient depends upon the plant carriers capacities. Okay, so it's not always, you have to understand, it's not always about the application of the nutrient to the crop, but it is how much of the nutrient being assimilated to the plant is the actual thing that actually matters. Okay, so let us start with the basics, the deficiency symptoms. Before the deficiency symptoms we discuss, let us know how the nutrition of the plant works. Okay, so the nutrition is, by the definition, the nutrition is nothing but feeding of a plant with a particular element. Okay, so we all know there are number of elements in the periodic table available on the earth, but only some of the elements are known as nutrients. Especially some of the nutrients are known as some of the elements are known as nutrients, precisely 16, and out of those 9 are the macronutrients and also 6 are micronutrients. Okay, so out of those, the macronutrients, the essential elements are the 16, macro 9, micro 6, and out of these the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, calcium, magnesium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, so they all come under the macronutrients which are required by a plant for a requirement of more than 1% dry weight. Okay, so whichever the nutrient being accumulated by the plant are being needed by a plant for more than 1% of the dry matter, those are all known as the macronutrients. And the second case, then micronutrients are needed by a plant less than 1% of the dry weight of the plants. But in the importance wise, the macronutrients and also micronutrients are actually, they are both similarly equivalently important, but they have their own similar levels of the importance in the plant metabolism. But what actually differs with the macronutrients and micronutrients is the type of requirement and also quantity of the requirement of the nutrients. And also we have to discuss here, there are two kinds of elements: macro elements, micro elements, essential elements. As we already discussed, there are macro, micro and essential elements, and there are also other classification of the nutrients: mobile, intermediately mobile, immobile. Okay, if a nutrient is being accumulated by a plant in the carrier wise, or if a nutrient can able to pass from one part of the plant body to another part of the plant body through carriers or through the phloem or the xylem, if they are capable of moving inside of a plant circulatory system, they are all known as mobile nutrients. In second case, if they are not able to mobile inside of a plant circulatory system, they are all known as immobile nutrients. And also some of the nutrients, they are intermediately mobile, which depends upon the carrier capacity and also translocation efficiency of a plant. Okay, so the second classification of the nutrients, these are all very much essential to understand how a nutrient influences the metabolism of the plant. So there are plants classified into mobile nutrients, immobile nutrients, intermediately mobile nutrients, and especially there are very much of the nutrients, they are mobile, like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, like that. And also there are some of the nutrients which are intermediately mobile, like you can see it here on the PPT also, so you can see here on the picture also, like manganese, molybdenum, nickel, sulfur, copper, like that. And also some of the two basic elements which are completely immobile inside of the circulatory system of a plant, that is calcium and also boron. You can remember with the name of the Ca and B, calcium and boron are actually precisely they are not capable of movement inside of a plant circulatory system. Okay, so don't confuse with the mobility of the nutrients in the same plant circulatory system with the soil circulatory system. They are mobile in the water or soil systems, but they are not mobile inside of a plant systems. So as you can see here on the picture, the nutrient mobility of the plants influences the carrying capacity and also deficiency symptoms which can be visible from the outside of a plant. So that depends upon it. So let us see as you can see here on the picture, when you can divide the plant leaves into two types: older leaves, younger leaves. The older leaves which shows the deficiency symptoms, they are of the mobile nutrients. Okay, so if a nutrient is mobile, the deficiency symptoms will appear upon the older leaves. The logic behind this is the most of the nutrients which are mobile, they will be translocated immediately and also easily towards the other plant parts. As they are taken up by the roots, they will be translocated from the older leaves to younger leaves and also tips of the leaves. So the deficiency symptoms will actually appear upon the younger leaves. And also in the second case, if the nutrients are immobile or the intermediately mobile, they will eventually appear upon the younger leaves. So as you can see here on the picture, the precise nutrient mobile nutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and magnesium, and also intermediately mobile are manganese, molybdenum, copper, nickel and iron, like that. So depending upon this also, the form of application and also mode of application of the nutrient should vary. Okay, so if you can apply a nutrient which is immobile to the essential plant part, that can help very much. Okay, so that is where the hydroponics and also foliar application of the nutrients will come into picture. So this is the second slide. This is the slide, that picture that shows the effects of the nutrient deficiencies on the plants, and this also very much depends upon the mobility of a nutrient. Okay, if the nutrient deficiency is being seen on the older leaves, that means that is precisely mobile nutrient. If they are seen upon the younger leaves, that means it is intermediately mobile. If the nutrient deficiencies are seen on the tips of a mobile nutrient, they are all known as terminal leaves. Okay, so the example for the mobile nutrients are NPK, magnesium, zinc and molybdenum, and also in the terminal buds that can be seen as calcium and boron. So let us jump into the main topic of the today's lecture, that is nitrogen deficiency in the maize. Okay, so let us see the deficiency symptoms of the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and zinc in the major field crops. So we will be mostly having the precise emphasis upon the major field crops, precisely maize and also rice. Okay, so most of the plants, most of the farmers will depend upon the cereals only, so that is why we have confined the lecture into the cereals and also some of the pulses only. So let us see the same kind of deficiency symptoms of the nutrients in the farmer's perspective in the major field crops. So this is the slide that is showing the deficiency symptoms of the first and foremost nutrient, that is nitrogen in the maize. Okay, so before that you have to understand the nutrition starts with the soil. Okay, so nutrition of any kind of element that starts with the soil, that is being taken up by the root hairs by certain carriers. Okay, so among all the elements are the nutrients in the plant atmosphere. So the calcium, hydrogen and also oxygen, which are the prime constituents of the organic matter of any kind of dry matter of a plant, they are being taken up by the plant themselves. See, let me tell you again, this carbon, hydrogen and oxygen for the any kind of plant, they can be taken up by any kind of plant by themselves. The carbon is taken up by the plant from carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The hydrogen is taken up by the plant from the water from the atmosphere, and also oxygen is being taken up or absorbed by a plant from water. Okay, so that is where the whole concept of the nutrition starts, and you don't have to feed the plant with carbon or hydrogen and oxygen, because the plants are capable of producing the organic matter themselves. Okay, so the plants are capable of producing. producing organic matter themselves. So then it starts with the nitrogen and also phosphorus. So the nitrogen deficiency symptoms are seen upon the older leaves because it is actually mobile. So you can see the nitrogen deficiency symptoms on the younger leaves, older leaves to the younger leaves, because it diffuses from the older leaves to younger leaves. And also there is a there is a profound and very much developed circulatory system for the nitrogen, because it is the prime most important nutrition for the whole plant to growth. Okay, so the just like the nutrition, the nitrogen is the basic constituent of any kind of dry matter inside of a plant. So it has its own constituents in the amino acids, proteins, DNA, RNA, and everything. And almost whatever you name it, the part of the constituent of the organic matter of any kind of plant body will have the nitrogen directly or indirectly inside of it. So it is the primary constituent of any kind of organic matter, and the deficiency symptoms of nitrogen will flow from older leaves to younger leaves. And the symptoms will appear upon the nitrogen deficiency, because deficiency will look like they are the stunted growth of a plant. They will grow very much smaller, the chlorosis of the plant, and also leaf very much shrinked growth of a leaf, because the much more expansion of the leaf will not happen. And also root also will not be have grown much, and the restricted growth of the root will also happen. And also the shoot will become thin, slender, and spindle like appearance. It is almost always seen in any kind of the cereals. When you have not applied with the urea, the plant will not grow much more broader or much more wire. So it all happens with the nitrogen, which has influence upon the photosynthesis, and thereby the dry matter and dry matter partitioning, and also dry matter production. Okay, so when you have when your plant have the deficiency of the nitrogen, it influences almost everything of a plant. So second is the phosphorus deficiency. So the phosphorus, let us come to the second nutrition second macronutrient to discuss with, that is phosphorus. So which is being applied by a plant in the form of DAP or MOP or something like that. So DAP. So the deficiency, I mean the functions of the phosphorus will vary from one plant to another plant, but the main constituent of the phosphorus is to carry the electron from one point to another point, and also it carries energy transfer reactions. Okay, so the phosphorus will have its own influence upon the energy transfer reactions, and it is always involved in the energy reactions. I mean, when a plant develops ATP from ADP, when a plant develops NADP from NAD, or when a plant develops FADP from FAD. So it is always there is a necessity of a element of the phosphorus to deal with, and it always happens to be involved in the phosphorus, involved in the energy reactions. So let us come to the deficiency symptoms of the phosphorus. As you can see here, the phosphorus deficiency symptoms will always looked upon the older leaves first, and they will be gone to the younger leaves later. Okay, so the leaves are also will be seen very much darker and green leaves. So there is a particular symptom to identify the phosphorus deficiency, that is the phosphorus deficiency will make the leaves very much greener in the initial stages, and as the deficiency grows very much serious, the deficiency symptom of the phosphorus deficiency will lead to the purple leafness. Okay, so the leaves will become purplish due to the heavier production of the anthocyanin, and also heavier expression of the anthocyanin pigmentation dominating the chlorophyll. Okay, so there is a precise difference between the deficiency of nitrogen and also phosphorus. The deficiency of the nitrogen will lead to the chlorosis. Okay, so there is a point to remember, there is a point to understand, the deficiency of nitrogen will lead to the proper unpatterned chlorosis, but the phosphorus deficiency will lead to the domination of the anthocyanin with the chlorophyll. So the domination of the chlorophyll with the domination of the anthocyanins with the chlorophylls will make the leaves very much purplish, and they will be having appearance as the purplish leaves. Okay, so that will lead to the dark green leaves in the initial stages, and then it becomes the purple leaves as it grows serious, and the stems will become slender and non-grown. Okay, so and the phosphorus deficiency in the fruit crops will make the ripening of the fruits very much slower. Okay, so phosphorus is very much essential for the respiration, and also to make the climatic fruits to ripen. In case of the phosphorus deficiency, the fruit crops they have recorded the ripening of the fruits very much slower. And also there is a precise deficiency symptom you can identify upon the potato roots, that is you can see here on the picture, the roots of the root modification of the potato will be influenced much more. Unlike the nitrogen which has its own influence upon the shoot parts, the phosphorus deficiency or the phosphorus will have much more influence upon the root parts. Okay, so as you can see here on the picture, the potato tubers of the potato will have the rusty lesions with the deficiency symptoms of the phosphorus, and as it grows much more serious, the rusty lesions appear upon the potato, which will influence the consumption capacity and also the marketing value of the potato. So this is the second picture that shows the deficiency of the phosphorus in rice. Okay, so the deficiency of the phosphorus in the rice will look like this, and some of the leaves will become slender and very much curled down. So the curling up of the leaves will happen in the extreme cases. So next we will be jumping into the potassium deficiency. The potassium, the third most important macronutrient after the nitrogen and potassium. So potassium, it must be understand that the potassium will have a contribution of 0.01 to 0.1% of the plant total dry weight. Okay, so the functions of the potassium will have the importing up of the resistance to the plants. Okay, so potassium will have an influence upon the resistance. Okay, it also influences the stomatal closure. Okay, so the prime function the potassium performs in case of the plants is the resistance. Okay, so in case of the abiotic stress or in case of the abiotic stress, the potassium has a precise influence upon the tolerance and also resistance imparting to the plants. In case of the any kind of abiotic stress, you name it, I can tell you. So light or light, water, heat stress, temperature stress, chilling stress, freezing stress, whatever the fungal infections, bacterial infections, pest infestations. So whatever the stress may be it abiotic stress or the biotic stress, the deficiency of the potassium will have makes it worsen, because the potassium will have imparts the resistance levels to the abiotic and biotic stresses. And second thing that influences the potassium to the plants is the stomatal closure. Okay, so the flow of the potassium and also calcium elements into the guard cells and outside of the guard cells along with the calcium, they will influence the stomatal closure and the stomatal opening of a plant. Okay, so that is why the deficiency of the potassium will also have its influence upon the transpiration efficiency and also water use efficiency. So let us come to the deficiency symptoms of the potassium. So the deficiency symptoms of the potassium will lead to the tip and marginal scorching. Okay, so there is one more technical precise element to identify the deficiency of the potassium, that is scorching. Okay, so which you cannot find in the nitrogen and also phosphorus deficiency. So marginal scorching and tip scorching along with the scorching appearance of the total plant appearance, that is the main deficiency symptom of the potassium. So as you can see here on the picture, the older leaves will become chlorotic. And remember, the deficiency symptoms of the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium invariably start at the older leaves. They start at the older leaves and they will be spread to the younger leaves, and the nitrogen deficiency will have the proper unpatterned uniform chlorosis, and the deficiency of the phosphorus will lead to the purplishness, and also the deficiency of the potassium will lead to the chlorotic appearance and also along with the scorching appearance, which is precisely the marginal scorching or tip scorching. So among all the leaves, among all the cereals, you can say the barley is known to be the best susceptible variety, susceptible crop to the potassium deficiency, and the deficiency of the potassium will also leads to the improper development of the roots, and in the severe cases that will lead to the dieback. Okay, so the deficiency of the barley in severe cases will lead to the dieback, and that will reduces the resistance levels of a plant, and the potassium, which has a precise influence upon the putrescine development or the putrescine of synthesis inside of a plant metabolism as a secondary metabolite, will be worsened in case of the potassium deficiency. Okay, so the deficiency of the potassium can be remediated by the application of the MgSO4 and also multi-K like that. So multi-K can be applied with at a ratio of 20 grams per liter, and the MOP with the recommendation as usual the recommendation of the university you can apply. But the deficiency of the phosphorus potassium, you have to understand there will be scorching, especially the marginal scorching. In the second case, you can see on the leaves of the tobacco, the leaves will be scorching from the edges, and they will be spreaded to the total vein part, but they will be started at the edges. So this is the deficiency symptom of the rice, which can be seen in especially in the rice. So the rusty lesions on the rice. Okay, so which will also influence the resistance levels of a rice towards the fungal infection. So that will also worsen the BLB. So blights and also rust, blight, and all other bacterial and fungal infections of the rice will be worsened in case of potassium deficiency. Okay, so again we have to understand the deficiency of the potassium will not stop with the abiotic stresses, but will also influence the resistance of a plant towards abiotic stress and also biotic stresses. Okay, so rusty lesions on the grain part are also the panicle of the rice will be the precise deficiency symptom of the potassium, will also influence or will also worsen the bacterial leaf blight and also rust of rice. So this is a picture that actually explains quick difference between the three basic nutrients of which we have actually discussed. When you take a maize leaf precisely, the healthy leaves is what looks like in the first phase. The first leaf will be looking like a healthy leaf, and in the second case, when you can see the phosphate deficiency, the edges will be purplish. Okay, so that is the difference. And the third leaf will have the potassium deficiency, which can be identified with the scorching appearance of the tips of leaf, and also the nitrogen deficiency can be identified with the unpatterned chlorosis. So this is also same kind of the picture. I have put it to explain the types of deficiencies and are also their solutions. That when you can see a citrus leaf or a mango leaf or a azadrakta leaf or a eucalyptus leaf, whatever a typical leaf, when you take it, if the deficiency symptom is of nitrogen, you can see the chlorosis unpatterned and also being spread from one point to another point. If the deficiency is of phosphorus, you can see the tips, it will be spreading from the tips and also anthocyanin pigmentation. And if the deficiency is of potassium, you can see the tip scorching. If it is of the magnesium, you can see the inverted V-shaped chlorosis. And also if the deficiency is of calcium, you can see the tip necrosis. So after the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, now we are heading to the calcium deficiency. The growing part of the any kind of plant will be damaged or dead. Okay, so as we already discussed, the potassium, the deficiency of the calcium and boron will be seen at the extreme tips of a plant body because they are actually immobile. Okay, so the deficiency, the calcium is actually immobile, though it has its own carriers, but it cannot be taken from one point to another point unless you apply onto the same part. So the calcium will not be translocated inside the circulatory system of the plant. It is very much local, very much immobile. Okay, so when you apply it to the plant with the calcium, that will be not be translocated to the younger leaves and also extreme tips of a plant body. That is why you can see the deficiency symptom of the calcium at the extreme tips. Okay, so the extreme tips of the plant body, which are supposed to be as inflorescence or a fruit part or a flower part or any kind of tip leaves or a flower bud or a typical bud, or shoot apical meristem. So whatever it may be, the extreme tips of a plant body will be influenced by the calcium deficiency. So the picture, you can see the deficiency symptom of the calcium in case of the fruit plant parts. The first case is the watermelon. The blossom end rot of the watermelon and also tomato is the typical symptom of the calcium. Okay, so the blossom end rot happen in the deficiency symptom case of the calcium, because the end of the rotting of the end part of the blossom. Okay, if the blossom is which becomes the inflorescence and which will become the fruit after the pollination and fertilization. So if it is a fruit or flower or inflorescence, whatever it may be, the rotting will start from the extreme tips of a plant body. That is why it is known as the blossom end rot, which is well known as the BER, blossom end rot of the watermelon, and tomato are exactly the deficiency symptoms of the calcium, which will be worsened if there is mistreatment in case of the transport or in case of the harvest or in case of the storage. Okay, so the typical temperature differences in case of transport, storage, and also the harvesting cases, which will worsen the blossom end rot, and the basic root cause of the blossom end rot is calcium along with some other fungal treatments. So in the same case, if it is in the apple, the sheath or also the pith of the peel of the apple will become very much softened, and they will be having no taste at all. So that is why it is known as bitter pit in the apple, especially upon the unripened apple. So the calcium deficiency in the apple will lead to bitter pits. So the magnesium deficiency. So magnesium deficiency in the maize, let us see, as we already discussed, the magnesium deficiency in maize actually will lead to the interveinal chlorosis. Okay, so the deficiency of the magnesium will lead to interveinal chlorosis. So there is a precise characteristic feature of the magnesium deficiency of the magnesium, which actually happens in the midribs. Okay, so the veins will remain non-chlorotic, but the chlorosis will happen or will start between the veins. So that is why it is known as interveinal chlorosis, and also in the extreme cases the necrosis will also happen. So next, the magnesium deficiency in rice. So we already seen the magnesium deficiency in case of maize. So there is a simple technique to identify the magnesium deficiency in case of rice or maize. You can see the inverted chlorosis, inverted V-shaped chlorosis in case of cereals. Okay, so the magnesium deficiency will have chlorosis precisely inverted V-shape. Inverted V-shaped chlorosis is the precise deficiency symptom of the magnesium, either in case of rice or also in case of maize. So in extreme cases, that will lead to the interveinal chlorosis that can be remedied by the application of MgSO4, magnesium sulfate 2 grams per liter. Okay, so the magnesium deficiency can be remediated by application of the magnesium sulfate 2% or 2 grams per liter or 400 grams per acre, with a ratio of the 2 grams per liter or 400 grams per 200 liters per an acre. So it all starts with the formation of the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll as a chemical structure that will have the magnesium in the center of a chlorophyll. Okay, so magnesium Mg+2 is a cation that is be placed in the center part of the chlorophyll, so which will build up the entire chemical structure of the chlorophyll. So without the magnesium, there will be no possibility of the binding up of the chlorophyll with a precise structure. So the total magnesium deficiency will lead to the total collapse of the the chemical structure of the chlorophyll. So that is why you will find the chlorosis, and extremely the magnesium deficiency precisely will start at the tips, will be seen inverted V shape in any case of the cereals. So after the rice, let us discuss the magnesium deficiency in case of the cotton, which is very much important in case of the cotton. So we are discussing this because the cotton, most of the cotton, more than 80 to 90% of the cotton will have the magnesium deficiency. Either it shows or not, the deficiency symptom of the magnesium will be is more often in case of the cotton. So as you can see here on the picture, the purplishness and also augmented anthocyanin pigmentation in case of the cotton is the indication of the soil having lower levels of magnesium. Okay, so almost all soils of the Indian crops will have the magnesium deficiency, though India has too much of variability in the soil systems, and also soil we have various kinds of soils of course, but there is too much of variability in the soil systems in India. But most of the southern part of the India will be depending upon the cotton cultivation. They are shallow soils, and they are not, the depth of the soils is not much efficient and also not much sufficient to maintain the same magnesium concentration in the soil systems. So often the shallowness and also low deepness of the soils will have influence upon the magnesium translocation. Okay, so what I mean to say is the most of the soil systems, most of the soils which are prevalent to cultivate the cotton in India are deficient in magnesium and zinc. Okay, so the magnesium and zinc, the farmers of India are very much known, or very much tend to apply too much of the concentration of the nitrogen, but the concentration of the nitrogen as they are applied to the soils, the translocation of the magnesium will come down. Okay, so the transpiratory channels of nitrogen, calcium and magnesium, they and hydrogen being the same kind of cations, they will combine, they will compete with the translocation efficiency of the carriers. So the too much of application of the nitrogen influencing the magnesium deficiencies. So finally let us come back to the total concept of us. So deficiency of the magnesium in cotton will lead to the anthocyanin pigmentation, which leads to the reddishness of the leaves in case of winter. So when you see the magnesium deficiency in case of citrus leaves, as we already discussed, that will have a characteristic inverted V-shaped chlorosis. Inverted V-shaped chlorosis. So it is a citrus leaf you are being seen here. So the deficiency of the nitrogen, deficiency of the magnesium will lead to the chlorophyll dislocation, especially at the tips will be seen inverted V shape in case of citrus leaves. So which can be remedied by the magnesium sulfate or MgSO4 2H2O or MgSO4 at 2% levels. So next is sulfur deficiency, which is much more profoundly seen in the cereals. Actually the deficiency of the sulfur will have its own influence upon the plant nutrition and also plant development in case of the dry matter wise and also quality wise. Okay, so unlike the nitrogen, the sulfur will influence the quality of the yield of plant. So how it influences, I will tell you. So the deficiency of the sulfur will lead to the pale yellow plants. Okay, so the sulfur will not let the plant to grow much more the expanded leaves and also expanded root system. So when there is no much expanded root system and leaf system, the translocation of the nitrogen, any kind of element, they will be assimilated, not be much more efficiently assimilated into the plant systems. So that will lead to the deficiency, even though there is practically and physically availability of the nitrogen nutrient. Okay, so the sulfur deficiency will lead to the improper translocation of the nutrient, even though the nutrient is physically available. Okay, so even though there is physically availability of the nutrient, the translocation will not happen properly. So the sulfur deficiency will lead to uniform yellow leaves, will indicate the veins are also yellow. And in case of iron and manganese, you will see the intervenar chlorosis, which is not seen in case of the sulfur deficiency. So sulfur deficiency will lead to slender growth of the plants. So this picture shows the deficiency of the zinc in case of rice, which is much more profoundly seen in case of rice. Wherever the rice you will see, it actually there is a much more possibility of seeing the zinc deficiency in case of rice. Okay, so zinc has its own influence, has its own significance in case of rice, which is actually being deficient in the Indian soils. Okay, so above 60% of the soil systems inside of in the Indian soils are deficient in the zinc bodies. So the deficiency symptoms of the rice will be seen like this. So you cannot see the greenness in the rice plants, and also the short and slender leaves and short and slender plant bodies inside of a root, and also slender and curled leaves, and also tip curling of the rice seedlings is actually zinc deficiency. So in the extreme cases, the deficiency of the zinc will lead to the worsening up of the disease called Khaira in rice. So that is technically that is locally known as Khaira disease in rice. So the deficiency of the zinc will lead to curling up of the tips of the leaves. So that can be dominated by the zinc sulfate. Okay, so zinc sulfate or also multi-K you can apply. So this is the slide we have actually put up to tell you the gist of all the everything I have said. So the nitrogen is a major constituent, major structural constituent which has its own influence upon the formation of protoplasm, cell enlargement, and deficiency will lead to the proper chlorosis. And most of the nitrogen, more than 70% of the nitrogen, whatever you apply in the form, that will be accumulated in the chloroplast. So phosphorus being a component of membrane systems has its influence upon the ATP formation, ADP formation, nucleoproteins formation, and precisely in case of, especially in case of the seeds, the total form of the phosphorus available will be seen in the form of phytin. So the calcium influences the cell division, cell expansion, cell enlargement of the cells, and will have its own influence upon the cell wall formation, as it being a constituent of the calcium peptides. And the calcium also acts as a cofactor for the lipase and alpha amylase. So remember, the calcium is the only macronutrient has its influence at the chromosomal level. Okay, so other than calcium, no other macro element has its influence at the chromosomal level, but the deficiency of the calcium will influence the chromosomal abnormalities. So by the end of the lecture, I would like to conclude the lecture, and finally I would like to conclude with the final conclusions of the lecture. So the nutriophysiology, it all depends upon the mobility of a nutrient. It all depends upon the mobility of a nutrient, and if the nutrient is mobile, the deficiency will be seen at the older leaves first, and if the nutrient is intermediately mobile, the deficiency will be seen at the younger leaves first, and if the nutrient is completely immobile, the deficiency will be seen at the extreme tips of the plant body, just like calcium and boron. Okay, so finally the plants depend upon the nutrition and the plant yield, and also plant performance, plant quality and yield, production, productivity, quantitative and qualitative yield of a plant all depends upon the quality of the nutrition you give. And the measures to improve crop nutrition are, there are three kinds of recommendation, three kinds of suggestion we can give to the farmers. One thing is the regular soil sampling. Okay, so it's not always the nutrition you're giving to the plant, but it is also matters that the plant being taking the nutrition properly. So the regular soil sampling of the soils by the farmers will help it a lot. So regular soil sampling and judiciary application of the nutrients, depending upon the soil sampling only, depending upon the recommendation of the soil health card only, the farmers are asked to apply the nutrition either by the foliar or the soil application. So whatever the application method of application, but the whole point is to increase the nutrient use efficiency. So the nutrient use efficiency will be increased when you apply the nutrients judicially. So the regular soil sampling has to be practiced. The second is healthy soil. So the healthy soil will lead to the healthy plant body. So to make healthy soil, you have to maintain the proper drainage systems to the soil, proper tillage, proper tilt, proper drainage systems, aeration of the soil bodies, regular soil aeration. So they all depends upon the healthiness of the soil. So healthy soil will lead to healthy plant. And judiciary application of the nutrients, we already discussed this. So the farmers usually tend to apply 1.4 to 1.6 times of the normal RDF, recommended dose of the fertilizer. So we have to recommend the farmers to stick to the RDF, recommended dose of fertilizers, which eventually leads to the proper healthening up of the soils. So it will not lead to the miraculous expansion of the yield productivity or yield in case of the cereals actually, but it will have its slow influence upon the yield quality. So thank you for your patience. Thank you.